We are back on the Morning Brew, and we're excited to have our next guest with us today. Amber, do the honors, if you would.
Of course,
please.
absolutely, Larry. I'd like to introduce you in Albuquerque to Miss Mira Jacob. Mira is a wonderful novelist and a writer by profession, and she is debuting her first novel, A Sleepwalker's Guide to Dreaming.
Dancing.
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 Okay.
You know what?
Dreaming.
I was so nervous to meet you. I was so excited to meet you that I didn't sleep.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, so that's.
So it's a Freudian slip.
It is really.
Yeah, because you are still dreaming. I get it.
Sleeping really has a lot to do with this book.
Yeah,
there's a
sleeping
lot
disorders.
of your sleeping disorders.
Yeah.
And I think I now have one. Thank you.
Oh, good. I'm glad to spread the joy.
Sure.
Yeah, so it's a story basically of an immigrant family that comes to New Mexico in the 60s, Indian immigrants, and there is this there's a through line in it, which is that all of the characters have various problems with sleeping. And that's kind of the story is really about a father who wakes up and he sort of starts seeing people that aren't there. And the main character in it is called home by her mother, who says, your father, this brain surgeon, is suddenly talking to people that don't exist. You have to come see what's happening. And so she goes home to figure out not only what's happening to him, but kind of what happened to this family in the past, that he might be talking to imaginary people. So you're kind of solving two mysteries at one time.
And this is not an autobiographical book.
No, I said it in New Mexico,
Yes.
which I'm from, maybe it's not obvious. I'm from New Mexico. I grew up here. I was born and raised here. And my parents immigrated here in the 60s.
You know, I realized just before we went on today, I met your parents.
You did?
I did. I spent an evening with them one night, talking with them, and before your father passed away and everything. And they were just delightful.
Oh, that's so great. I love New Mexico.
How's your mom?
She's doing well.
Good.
Yeah, I think
good.
she's watching us.
That's wonderful.
And I love your impression of your mom.
Oh, my mother, yes.
When she's, I think she's a very aspirational, powerful woman, very successful, and she wants you to be a doctor.
Yes.
Does she still want that for you, do you think?
I think if I were to tell my mother tomorrow, you know what, Mom, it's all over. I've stopped the whole novel writing thing. I'm going to be a doctor. She'd be like, oh, thank goodness. Wonderful.
You can always write on your spare time.
Exactly. You can always do it in your spare time. Just go save some lives.
But you didn't. And you've been writing since you were a little girl.
I have been writing since I was little, and I've been writing in New York specifically for the last about 15, 20 years. I wrote a lot of kind of crazy things before this. I wrote a book for Kenneth Cole, the fashion designer. I wrote for Pop-Up Video. Do you guys
Yeah,
remember that?
I used to watch that religiously.
Yeah, I was the
Yes.
You were the blue
Yeah.
girl.
You wrote the copy in the
Yes,
bubble?
I did, yeah.
Good.
Somebody did that, it was me. We had actually a staff of 5, but I was doing a lot of different writing jobs, and then the whole time I was also writing this on the side. So I was writing this story, I think I started it about 10 years ago. And then I was writing it for about 3 years, and I had this great family that I loved and cared about, and then in the middle of it, my father, as you mentioned, got sick, my actual father.
Yes.
I had made this sort of fictional father that I loved, and then my real father got sick and I couldn't write the book anymore.
Yeah.
So I stopped writing it
What
for
a
about
really
3
nice
years.
guy, by the way.
Oh,
He was just, I've met him a couple of occasions, and really nice guy.
Yeah, he's really missed.
Well, I can see how that would be hard.
Yeah, it was really hard. And then the weird thing is that afterwards I came back to the book and I kept trying to write the father that I had written before, and I kept writing my father, which was really weird, actually. It felt a little bit unhinged. And I told my husband, who's a film director, and we have a lot of creative talks about process, and I said, I think I'm ruining my book because I'm putting my real father in here, and it's fiction. And he said, well, what's wrong with that? Why don't you just put him in? So the next, it took me another 7 years to finish the book, but those 7 years I wrote my dad into it, which anyone who knows my dad will see him very clearly, even though
that's wonderful.
Yeah, even though the rest of the characters are pretty fictional, and it kind of became my way of being with him.
Who's your favorite character?
Oh, the mother, Kamala.
Kamala.
There's a mother in there who, I'll tell you, like her defining characteristic for me. There are many, But she's the person who tells herself that after movies are over, she decides how the plot really goes. So, like in Harry Met Sally, she says, no, afterward he leaves her for somebody else.
Oh, no.
Because she just can't stand that plot line. So she's this person who sort of reimagines the world in the way that she wants it to be. And I feel like she's going through everybody's lives, reimagining them, which is a really fun character to kind of deal with.
And she loves televangelists.
She loves televangelists. I think she believes that it brings her closer to her son, but she's this kind of character who believes anything she wants to. She just decides that that's what's in the Bible because that's what she believes.
Okay.
So she sort of retrofits her the religion to fit her ideology. Not totally unusual in the world,
Isn't
but
What's your day-to-day in New York? What do you do?
yeah, every day right now, for the first time in a while, I write. I go to this great little loft called the Powder Keg, and I sit up there. It's actually it's a thing out of a storybook. It's a loft filled with carnival furniture, and I have a desk tucked into it, and so I write for, anywhere from 4 to 6 hours, and then
Wonderful.
I walk around and try to talk to Brooklyn's full of a lot of other people doing what I'm doing. So a lot of my day is taken up with talking to them to make sure we're not all insane.
Little bohemian. thing
Little
going.
bohemian, yeah.
I like that. I like that.
And Mira also was a co-founder of Pete's reading series in Brooklyn, and it was kind of like your church for 13 years,
Yeah.
where you'd bring in other creative professionals to come in and share
Yep,
their writing.
their work. So Pete's was this cool thing because what we did was we realized the writing life, as you may have heard, is not very glamorous at all.
Or
I've
social.
heard that.
Yeah, exactly. You never really get to talk to people. So we realized that there were a lot of writers who weren't sort of getting a nice way to deal with each other. So we made this reading series. My partner Allison Hart and I, who run the reading series together, we made this great space in which really big authors would come in and they'd be featured with someone who's either unknown or under-recognized. And it was every other week. And we would sit there and listen to these stories. And it was, in a time where everything is digital and everyone's got a 2-second attention span, it felt like taking a pause for 30 minutes to listen to somebody's written work really became like a church,
I think that would do so incredibly well here. Right now, I don't know, Albuquerque's really undergoing this incredible cultural, very dynamic
Yes.
period.
Yeah, I've heard this.
Where creatives are actually making a living.
Yeah.
And working together. And there's a synergy of the creatives here in Albuquerque, unlike anything I've ever experienced living here for 32 years. And so when I read about Pete's, I thought, oh, we could totally
You can totally do
that
this.
here.
All right, I will talk to anybody who wants to get that going. I will happily help you get that done.
There are just so many creative people here in Albuquerque, and then they have their other jobs.
Yep.
But they're making it work now, and they're with their passion, their artistic
We should
passion.
bring something to the table.
I love that.
Mira, what a great conversation. Thank you for being
Thanks for
here
having me.
today.
Sleepwalkers Guide to Dancing, and you can meet Mira Jacob and have her autograph her book for you tonight at Bookworks on Rio Grande. She'll be there
Yeah.
at 7 p.m. tonight, so please go and visit her.
We'll
Yeah.
be back on the Morning Brew right after this.